So what I've tried to do is, as we've been going through the sessions, we've had a series of note takers, and I've been grabbing their notes and making my own notes and trying to capture a few of the key things that we've been talking about over the last 2 days. Now you may find that, oh, the point I made isn't here. Well, don't worry, we've still got all of the detailed notes, but I've just tried to pick out a couple of salient points that I thought were perhaps some of the most important. So let's run through those. So it's going to be a little bit repetitive in the sense I'm going to run through the different sessions, but let's see whether we can pick out some important things that have been said. So ethics was a key thing, and it's a very contested term, natural capital. It's all about, I was learning, it was all about power relations and ideologies. Quite very interesting stuff. And maybe it's something where we need to reconcile capitalism and nature. Can we actually do that? We talked about sustainable growth in one of the sessions. There's actually a long history of sustainable accounting, but we need to develop better metrics, and perhaps we need to be educating consumers to be demanding these sustainable products. We had a session on linking capitals, and we learnt about that societal change can actually drive the natural capital agenda. We need to be investing and thinking about social capital, particularly the marginalised groups, people like unemployed, and getting them involved. And investors can be major drivers of change. We had a good session on cultural services. And one of the themes that came out was the idea that these cultural ecosystem services are actually constructed by the interactions of people in the environment. And they're not necessarily non-material and intangible. We can actually find ways of getting values for them. But we probably need to have some sort of participatory discussions to actually get people's perceptions of the environment and natural capital. We had a session at the beginning on knowledge yesterday, and I think we concluded that the UK has actually considerable knowledge and data and models. But what we really need to is know about the confidence that we have in those data, because a lot of them, there's a bit of uncertainty. That's a typo in the next line, that shouldn't be there. But one of the things about, I think, that I probably would have put in there was the fact that we need to be linking up the biophysical understanding with people's perceptions, a bit like was discussed in the cultural services section. And actually, ecosystem service values mean different things to different people. So that's some of the knowledge that we probably need to accumulate a bit more. We had a session on mapping, and we found that maps were very, very powerful tools, but have to beware perhaps of seduction, being seduced by these lovely outputs and nice coloured maps. We need to be better perhaps at combining data sources together rather than having single maps. And we need to design those new products, those new maps and things with the users and provide better solutions for people like for businesses. We had a session on partnerships. And there was a lot of discussion there about the great cumulative value of individuals actually working together so that the whole becomes much more than the sum of the parts. You're able to co-construct assessments and solutions. But there's a bit of a challenge sometimes to maintain these collaborations once they're going. And we certainly heard in the one about the session where we looked at catchments, coasts and the sea, that somehow we actually need to link all those together so that we understand the whole flows in the landscape of water coming down the catchment into the coastal zone and then into the open sea. We had a session on economics, and we found that we need to understand perhaps better the value sets of different people, different communities. And we certainly need to be looking more into whole life cycle analysis. And rather than thinking about just a single total economic value for something, we particularly need to be interested in the value of change in assets rather than the fixed assets themselves. There was a 25-year forward look session. The Natural Capital Committee is focused on England, but it certainly recognises a wider perspective. And there was a discussion about the involvement of the Natural Capital Investments Initiative to gain leverage. And there's a need perhaps to bring in more non-market values, and that's a sort of bit of a theme that's been coming through several of these sessions. There was a session on health, and it was felt there was a bit of a worry, I think, that came out of that about the perfect storm of the combination of all these different things. and that perhaps our lifestyles are not sustainable and are actually damaging the planet. But of course, there's very much of an emotional engagement in health, and that's key to changing people's behaviour. And one particular thing that seemed to come out of it was the crisis in public parks, that a lot of our green spaces that were perhaps we all knew and loved as children are being developed and no longer accessible. So I've got a couple of other ones that we've just been in. I've just been in a cities session, which was really interesting, and we heard a lot about mapping of green infrastructure in cities and the economic uplift that can be produced by using those city plans to actually influence individual development sites, and all the multiple benefits that have come out of that in terms of social cohesion, health, and education. So I've got this last, well, it's not quite the last slide, but this slide here, I was trying to actually think, well, you know, how would I summarise all this? And what would I tell my wife and my friends when I meet them this evening and they say, well, how'd you get on at the summit then? And I would say it was fantastic because we had lots of different people come along and lots of different interest groups were represented. But I felt actually there was quite a lot of common views that came out, certainly of the needs, certainly working together. Value is more than price, and that human perspectives are required beyond our biophysical descriptions of natural capital. And what are the challenges? I think mainstreaming the concept seems to be one of the things that's come out. Understanding risks and certainties. Sharing knowledge and maintaining partnerships is a key theme that's been discussed over the last 2 days. And coming back to that issue of ethical considerations and the power dynamics involved. And we certainly need to be moving beyond our understanding of ecosystem cycles to think about how they integrate with financial cycles and things like supply chains. So, if I had to have one soundbite message, and again people sort of tend to press you and say, okay, what is the message you got out? And I would say, we're trying to turn natural capital from being a problem, a liability, a fear, into a business opportunity for investment. So thank you all for also contributing in many ways. You've all been very lively in discussions, both in the plenary sessions and in the individual breakout sessions. You've all contributed to the scorecard, and we hope that that will capture some of these different issues that people are high on people's minds. So lots of dots on there, so that's really pleasing for me. And I'd really like to emphasise what a team of effort this has been. We've been planning this event for about a year, and I hope you appreciate all of the different people who've come along, all of the experts, and you know, obviously all yourselves who've come along and been interested in this summit. We have a secretariat with a big supporting team, steering group and so on, so it's been quite a major thing to get off the ground. So I hope you've all enjoyed it. Thank you.